when it comes to things that relate to people and culture, etc., some of our least favorite words to ever hear, you know where I'm going to go with this?
I do.
Yeah. Are organizations that we say, oh, have you ever thought about what you're doing with your mentoring program? And before we get that out of our mouth, somebody says, oh, yeah, we do that. Or, oh, yeah, we tried that, right?
Yes.
And there is just such a massive difference between saying, oh, yeah, we slapped together, we said we did a mentoring program, we didn't give thought, intentionality, structure, training, etc. And, oh, it didn't go that great. What else you got? What other new ideas? Versus, no, we regularly and methodically invest in our people via a thoughtful process.
Yes, labeling a duck a swan doesn't make it a swan. It's still just an ugly duck.
Welcome to the BetterCulture Podcast, where we make the clear connection between better culture and better business. This podcast is for leaders who want to build stronger teams, drive thriving companies, and enjoy your leadership role along the way. Now here's your host, Brett Hogeveen, a leadership and culture aficionado, keynote speaker, and co-founder of BetterCulture.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the BetterCulture Podcast. I am so excited to have my co-founder, father, partner, Dr. Kim Hogeveen on the show again to dive into a really important topic. Thanks for coming in the studio, Kim.
Hello, Brett. I'm tickled to be back.
Absolutely. Well, this topic today is one that my father has always really taken an interest in, has always said is significantly underutilized, misutilized, misunderstood, etc. Any other adjectives I should be using there?
No, I think it's one of those where there's such a huge upside, but it is massively underutilized.
I wonder what it could be.
Well, let's see.
All right. Well, today's topic is one, and stay tuned, okay? As soon as the word comes out of my mouth, don't say, oh boy, I've heard about this before. Stay tuned, all right? Today's topic is about mentoring, but not your regular old mentoring, not the way you've heard it before, not the way you've probably tried it before. Today's conversation is going to be about how we can help people grow, develop, be more successful. It's about the power of mentoring. It's about why when mentoring works, when it doesn't work. It's about what great mentoring looks like, what it doesn't look like. And honestly, we're going to talk about what formal mentoring could or should look like. And what I think will be especially new to people and to listeners is what informal mentoring looks like. So I want to go both of those directions today, Kim.
Terrific.
Oh,
I love the topic. You know, it's consistent with one of our 7 principles of leadership, which is focusing on helping people become more successful at work and in life. And it really goes, if I'll make this brief. I know we can go a little too deep here, but it goes all the way back to a guy named Albert Bandura, who was a psychologist, 1954, came out with sort of a seminal paper saying one of the most underutilized ways to grow is through modeling.
yeah.
And to some degree, mentoring is a form of modeling. And so I think it's almost a completely cost-free way to really help your people grow. I also know that a lot, and this is absolutely common, that I talk to people that have tried mentoring programs in the past, and they have a faint memory of them, but in general, they say, we don't do it anymore. Yeah, we had something, but didn't really work very well. And it's one of those things that sort of pains me because I think, it probably didn't. Not because the idea was bad, but because your implementation was not very effective.
Sure. Let's go back. I want you to talk to me about this Bandura thing. Let's go back. Let's talk psychology for a little bit. You said one of the best ways to gain new skills is modeling. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
It really is nothing more than saying that you find somebody that's exceptionally good at something and you actually painstakingly watch and observe what they do. We see this a lot in the crafts. Craftsmen, a lot of times, are apprentices for a while. You're a mason. Mm-hmm. They don't get them the top project the third day they're on the job, but they work with master masons.
Yes.
And they really watch, observe, they get coaching, and they ultimately are able to become master masons.
So you don't think the best way to become a master mason is textbooks and online videos?
Probably not. And sometimes the best way to become a top executive is not to go get your MBA. It's actually to find an exceptional executive who is incredibly successful and watch closely what they do and model their behaviors.
Well, it's interesting. And I think this is a testament to this topic, is most top executives, most really successful leaders, if you ask them the question, who has been influential in your career, they have an answer.
Absolutely.
They don't say, I don't know, nobody. I figured it all out myself.
That's absolutely true.
So I think that's testament to the value of this topic of talking about how can we help ourselves and help others grow by really understanding the power of mentoring.
Terrific.
Well, let's start just a little bit. We've covered a bit of this, but would you maybe frame up how you want this conversation to go from the standpoint of what really is the purpose of mentoring, of what are we trying to get done here?
It's a great question. Bottom line with mentoring is you have a mentor and a mentee, and the purpose of mentoring is to help that mentee grow in some way. Mm-hmm. And the more specific you're able to identify the growth goals for that individual, the more effective the mentoring is likely to be. And as you kind of foreshadowed, and we'll talk about here in a little bit, I see two fundamentally different approaches to mentoring. One is a structured program that a company can put into place to implement a mentoring program that will actually be effective and that people will enjoy, both the mentor and the mentee. And then we'll also talk a little bit, I hope, Brett, about a more informal approach to mentoring, something I call micro mentorships.
Yeah, I love it. One thing that I know we discuss with clients, it comes up regularly. One thing that I want to share, and you can expound on this, that mentoring, I would say, is often not for, is fixing problems. Mentoring is when we use this term, of course, you could try to pair someone up who's really struggling or who's a problem employee with a quote unquote mentor, but that's not how we're using that term today, right?
No, and I would actually encourage people to never use the term mentoring for fixing a problem. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you don't pair someone with someone to help them improve if they're a problem employee. Just don't call that mentoring, because what you'll do is you make then the opportunity to get a mentor, it must suggest you're a big problem employee.
Right.
I would save mentoring for the folks that are in the upper half of your employees that you really want to grow, and they're eager to grow into being exceptional. So I wouldn't confuse it with remedying problem behaviors.
Sure. Well, I'm going to tease for our listeners. Perhaps, I know we have a lot of very specific thoughts about how a formal program can be put in place and really be successful, which we're going to talk about first.
Okay.
And I'm going to tease what I think is, I don't know if it's more innovative, but I'm going to tease and share that this informal piece on the back end, I think might be really interesting to some of our listeners, but I'm going to make them wait.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
We won't make them wait too long.
So talk a little bit about this formal side. What do people get wrong? What is a more appropriate way to think about creating a mentoring program, a formal program inside of an organization? Because, and before I guess I ask you to just expand on that, I will share that a lot of times we talk with companies, we talk with organizations about what are they doing to develop people in a variety of different ways. And something that comes up, sometimes we bring it up, sometimes they bring it up, is, do you have a mentoring program? Have you tried doing something formal to pair people who want growth up with people who are further down that path that can help them? And frustratingly, pretty often, both from mentors, mentees, we hear them say, we did that 6 or 7 years ago. Didn't really go great. And that's frustrating from someone who knows how powerful this can be to so many people. So what goes wrong and how do we help organizations get it right?
Brad, I think this ties to one of the things we work with BetterCulture is we say when you're planning something, think about inverting the question. What could you do to make sure it goes lousy? And interestingly, as I do that, I realize, a lot of things we came up that would make your mentorship program not effective is exactly the pattern a lot of companies have used in the past. So it's not surprising they come out saying, this wasn't very effective. It kind of tailed off after a year or two.
Okay, so that's fun. What would make it lousy?
Well, the first thing I think, let's
design a really lousy mentoring program.
A really lousy program would be somebody comes in and says, I think we should start a mentor program. Why don't you figure that out, Brett? And you say, okay. And you say, well, I'll bet Jamie over here would benefit from some mentoring. I'll talk to Bill and I'll have Bill, why don't you meet with Jamie a little bit and serve as a mentor for a while? Mm-hmm. And I'm not kidding. Some of the programs I've talked to, some of the companies I've talked to, there was not much more thought than that, mm-hmm. and how they actually paired people, how they implemented a program. So let's go back a little bit and slow this down on some steps that actually would make your program effective, okay?
That'd be wonderful.
So I would start with, think a little bit about who you want to serve as mentors. A lot of times people start by finding mentees who needs to be mentored. Before you do that, I would suggest that you get a small group of individuals that you have identified as individuals who would be well qualified to serve as mentors. And what I mean by well qualified isn't their power in the company.
Is it their expertise?
Not particularly.
I didn't think so.
It's their desire and interest in serving as a mentor.
Yes.
And then this is something to be honest, Brett, I don't know any company that's done this really well, to be honest with you. The next step would be, once you've identified some folks that have some characteristics that might make them a good mentor, okay? And they're saying it's a role I would enjoy doing, to take just a couple hours and actually train them on how to be an effective mentor. And that may sound a little over the top, but I don't think it is.
It's not. It's not. One of the things that we have noticed, there's a reason that executive coaches, go get training, right? There are frameworks, there are processes, there are approaches that if your goal is to help someone else grow and be successful, that you can learn, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not rocket science, but there is an approach and a style and maybe a small set of tools that if a mentor will just take 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to just sit back and go, oh, that's a process I could use to be an effective mentor. I agree with you. They would be set up for such success.
Not only that, but if you'll do that, they'll enjoy being a mentor because they've got the tools, they've got the questions, they've got the process here that they can pick from, and they won't have to think, oh, geez, that's on my calendar. What do I do with her today when she comes in for this session?
That might be the biggest sort of miss that we see on a regular basis is these things get set up and the impetus for having a session is it's on my calendar today.
Correct.
And there's almost no pre-thought, no framework to work from. Goals are often unclear for what the actual mentorship process is, et cetera.
Let's talk about another step that I almost never see done that I think is very helpful in launching a relationship between a mentee and a mentor. And that is this. Let's say you've identified now maybe a half dozen people within your organization that would enjoy serving as a mentor. You've actually spent a little time with them as a group to give them some training, some tools, some insights, something we've built at BetterCulture, actually, that whole mentor manual that we put together for them.
Absolutely.
Then, when you have individuals that you've identified as they would benefit and would be eager to have a mentoring relationship, you pair them to the right mentor. This shouldn't be something where people say, I want a mentor. No. You should control this. Find individuals in your organization who you think are ready to have a mentor, you think have great potential, and then you match them to the appropriate mentor within that group of, we'll say, a half dozen that you have ready for this role. Okay?
Sure. And depending on the size of the organization, nothing wrong with having an application process or people say that they would be interested, but it shouldn't be automatic that once you say, I'm interested or I want one, that next Tuesday you have a mentor, right?
That's correct.
You're saying there's some criteria, some analysis being done on who's ready, how would it benefit them, the organization, et cetera.
Correct. But if you only go the application route, and I'm kind of hyper on this, you will miss all kinds of more humble, talented people that will, and particularly they're not comfortable with people higher titles, they will not be likely to come in and say, I want a mentor. However, if you proactively go to them and say, hey, I really think you could benefit from spending a bit of time with Janet. She's absolutely terrific. She's eager to mentor our young folks, and I think you would really benefit from it. And that young person will say, okay, let me do it. I'm just saying, don't be lazy on that part of finding the individuals that will benefit. But once you've done that, let's say now we've identified the mentee and the mentor. This is a step that will go a long ways toward making this a successful relationship. I recommend that you find two other individuals, I call them neutrals, that know both the mentor and the mentee, and that those 4 people get together in a room for just 30 minutes, and the 2 neutrals are there to do this. They're to explore and give their opinion on, you know what, I think the mentee would really benefit from experiencing or learning from you, Janet. And they help those 2 people, the mentee and the mentor, identify specific learning goals for this relationship.
Yes. Yes, because, if it's left up to just the mentor and the mentee, sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable even as a mentor to say, well, you know what, here's what I think I can teach you.
Exactly.
Here's what I think I'm really good at. And the mentee may not always have that perspective of what should I be asking? Where do I need to? They may not have enough context to know what to ask, right?
Correct, and the mentee doesn't even know what the mentor is great about.
Sure.
Whereas those 2 neutrals do.
Sure.
So it just sets the relationship off with some clear, identifiable goals.
How many goals should they set?
I would not set more than 4 or 5.
Okay.
One of the things I also think is really helpful is to not overlook experiential opportunities. So it isn't just have to be a didactic talking mentorship.
Oh my goodness, that is such a good point.
So if Janet is one of our top salespeople and she's got a sales meeting coming up or a phone call that's absolutely critical, saying, you know what, Janet, I think it would be terrific if you could let Jeff sit in on X.
Yes.
And so I think sometimes we think mentor-mentee has to always be talking over the
coffee.
desk.
Yeah, we got to get coffee, right? And we have to meet somewhere.
You get great growth by letting people inside the tent experience something they wouldn't otherwise experience but for this mentor relationship.
This is such a missed, I'm just 97% of mentoring programs miss this key point. And it's right back to where you started and said the power of modeling, right? Watching someone do something they're good at versus talking about doing a thing are 2 very different things.
One of the things, and I'm going back, I guess, in my own history, Brett, but when I was CEO and I'd have board meetings, I frequently, in fact, not frequently, always had 1 or 2 staff people that I asked to sit in the board meeting, just to observe. And that benefited, but what was really interesting was the debrief afterwards. And having the chance to talk to them about what did you see? Why did that person handle that way? Why did we respond this way? Why did you think that board member had that question? What were they really after?
Yeah.
And so the debrief after that experiential opportunity is a really, really rich opportunity for the mentor to share insights with the mentee.
Most of the organizations that I've worked with, if they just did just that one thing, just what you just talked about right there, they could probably double the impact of the mentoring programs that they're using.
Absolutely. And
experiential learning.
And it's again why I'm so, not really frustrated, but I am frustrated that this is such a massive opportunity that companies simply don't use. And if you will pick the right mentors, they won't see this as a burden or extra work. They will love this.
Yeah.
They will love having the opportunity to build young staff members and give them the opportunity to grow.
Yeah. How long should a mentoring relationship go?
Well, that's the other thing that
this is a lifelong thing?
Yeah.
You signing up for a life sentence here?
No. I recommend that they say you're going to have, pick your number, but 5 sessions.
Okay.
And the purpose for that is if the mentor and the mentee, particularly the mentor, decides this should be extended, they can, but now they have a natural termination point. So it's not awkward that, when do I break up with this date that I'm on? I've been hooked up here. I need to break this up. Well, if you say this mentorship is set up for 5 sessions, now whether you're meeting weekly, every other week, every month, don't care.
Yeah. But
there's a clear ending that is a way to successfully complete the relationship with everybody happy. And again, if the mentor thinks, I think we should follow up with 2 more.
Yeah.
That's great. But give them a end point when you start.
That's I love that, right? So we start with some neutrals that help us establish 3, 4, 5 goals. And then we say, we think we can tackle that over a 6-week, a 2-month, a 3-month period, with 4, 6, 8 sessions, right?
Yes.
And you sort of frame that up from the get-go so everybody knows what we're doing here, how long it's going to go, what the objectives are. Yeah, great advice. I love that.
Terrific.
Anything else that we haven't touched on yet on how to set up a great formal mentoring program?
There's a lot of pieces to it. When we work with our clients, we put a lot in there. I would mention one thing, and that first session, that the mentor has with the mentee is really critical. And one of the things we really, really push the mentors to understand is talk less, listen more. A whole series of questions to find out who this mentee is, not just at work, but where they grow up, what siblings did they have, who in the company sort of intimidates you, what would you love to accomplish in your life.
Relationship
the more you can
questions.
the more that mentor can understand the full person they're mentoring, the more effective they're going to be.
Absolutely. Well, helping organizations improve these processes, help their people accelerate and grow is something that we're passionate at BetterCulture. And so this is the type of work that we love doing. And if we could find more organizations that want to improve what they're doing here, that's fun work for us.
It's great work for us. And to be honest with you, Brett, it tends to be one-shot work. We want to come in and help you set up a really good structured program.
Yeah.
And then you have the ball.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't take a long time. Typically when we engage, there's a strategic conversation about how to set it up. And then there's a little bit of training with the mentors, right?
Yep,
and
that's it.
that's the area that if you're listening, you're thinking, this sounds interesting. That's the piece you got to really get right. The rest is structural and pretty easy to follow. But if you don't get those mentors sort of trained in what am I actually trying to do and what's my approach, then you're missing some of the impact.
Brett, this is such a good example of so many places are well intended with the what. They know a mentoring program could be useful, but the ball is dropped on the how.
Yes.
And if you get the structure right, like we're talking about, I think you get tremendous, tremendous benefit from these programs.
When it comes to culture stuff, and then we're going to move on to the informal thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to things that relate to people and culture, et cetera, some of our least favorite words to ever hear, you know where I'm going to go with this?
I do.
Yeah. Are organizations that we say, oh, have you ever thought about what you're doing with your mentoring program? And before we get that out of our mouth, somebody says, oh, yeah, we do that. Or, oh, yeah, we tried that, right?
Yes.
And there is just such a massive difference between saying, oh, yeah, we slapped together, we said we did a mentoring program, we didn't give thought, intentionality, structure, training, et cetera, and, oh, it didn't go that great. What else you got? What other new ideas? Versus, no, we regularly and methodically invest in our people via a thoughtful process.
Yes, labeling a duck a swan doesn't make it a swan. It's still just an ugly duck.
So if you're listening out there and you think, you know what, our company should try it. We tried one in the past, it didn't go great. Examine that. Think about what could have gone better, and might you want to try that again?
Love it.
All right, let's get on to this second part of mentoring, which we've covered. That we are big believers that organizations should at least consider a formal mentoring program. It doesn't need to take a lot of time and energy. It just needs to be well thought out, well executed. But I think perhaps if people master this second piece we're going to talk about, I think there's equivalent, if not more value out here in this informal approach to mentoring that we're going to discuss. And your company doesn't have to make a decision to start doing this second piece. Anybody can learn it. Anybody can use it. Anybody can teach this to their team, to their colleagues, to their kids, to their friends, to whatever. And we like to call this micro-mentoring. Yeah, jinx.
There we go.
So talk a little bit about, Kim, this big idea of what it means to understand how to have micro-mentors in your life.
Brett, most accomplished people, you foreshadowed this earlier, and you talked to them about who's made a big impact on their life in terms of helping them get down a pathway towards success. They can usually come up with several people that have. As you talk to them a little deeper, you will sometimes find out that someone made a huge impact, not over a long period of time, but through a single opportunity to interact with that person.
Yeah.
And particularly in the Midwest, people tend to be very accomplished people, often are quite accessible to us. And if we will take the initiative to ask for time, just for a cup of coffee, just 45 minutes with someone that's highly accomplished, and you make good use of those 45 minutes, you can come out with remarkable insights.
Yeah.
And that's what I call micro-mentoring. Micro because you're getting mentored, but in a very condensed single interaction often.
Yes. Now, to clarify, when we say micro mentoring, that's a term only we use,
Yes.
right? You don't tell the other party in this instance that, hey, you're even the person you're asking for advice. You never say the word mentor. You never say, hey, can you be my mentor for 45 minutes? You just say, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Hey, can I pick your brain? Hey, you said or did something that was really fascinating to me. I'd love to learn more about it, right?
Yes.
That's how you enter into these conversations.
If you ask someone would you be my mentor, you're not going to get a great hit rate. If you tell somebody that, I would love to have a chance to learn from you, would you ever have 45 minutes I could come visit with you?
Yeah.
Your hit rate will be much higher.
Yes. So one of the things that I think is an absolute truism, if you look at people who are widely accomplished, who have good networks, who have learned a lot of diverse and interesting things from far-flung fields, they tend to be someone who has had a lot of interesting conversations with bright, engaged people, right?
Yes.
If you will do this simple idea of learning to have what we're calling micro-mentoring conversations, the amount of growth that you will accumulate over your lifetime is massive, right? And so I just want to say the difference between someone that never, just hears someone interesting give a speech, or meets someone interesting at a networking event, or just is someone online who they think is smart or engaging, sends an email or a note or initiates a conversation or relationship, they will not grow much. And someone who builds this muscle of consistently just trying to build relationships and picks a brain of even for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, it doesn't need to be of these bright people. They will grow so much over time.
Let me go back a little bit and explain what I mean by purposefully using this technique.
Yeah.
If you're a supervisor and you have a staff member who you think has significant potential, you can say, well, I'm going to work to grow that person. Yeah, that's great. That is great. That's terrific. But if you think bigger and you say, in my network of relationships, who do I know that would be good for Brett to get 45 minutes with? Mm-hmm. And so as a supervisor, what I can do is simply contact that person in my network and say, hey, I've got a terrific young man that works for me. I'd like him to have a chance to get 45 minutes with you. Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Can we get that on your calendar? Brett, I have found overwhelmingly you're going to get 97% yeses in this Midwest part of the United States.
Yeah.
So what then happens is, and this is really important, you don't just go back to the employee and say, hey, Brett, Mr. Such and Such is going to see you for 45 minutes next week. Mm-hmm. That's not good enough. You want to sit down with the young person and say, here's a whole series of questions. I want you to go through and be ready. Which of these questions do you want to use? Because these are really valuable 45 minutes if you use them well. Mm-hmm. You're not going there to tell him about your life ambition.
Right.
That's not the purpose of this meeting. You're going there to learn from somebody who's been exceptionally successful. And the beauty of that is, as a supervisor, I've now helped my employee grow, and I haven't had to do all the heavy lifting.
Right.
I've handed it off by connecting him to another individual who's willing to share their expertise, experience, background with that staff member.
Yeah. And I think in your role as a leader, you were very thoughtful and very focused on helping your team members grow. And this is one of the tools that you use to do that, whether that was someone inside of the organization or outside of the organization, thoughtfully connecting them just for a one-time visit with clear goals and objectives, a little bit of prep just to make sure that the person gets as much out of it as possible. And I think that is a tremendous use of this. I want to go another direction, though, at some point. You want me to jump to my other direction, or you got something else you want to go there?
I might just add one thing to this. I think once you work with a staff member to teach them this process of asking for these meetings, preparing, getting the questions, listening carefully, coming back and learning, you've now taught them a skill they can use again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Because once people get used to the power of these micro-mentoring sessions, they start getting them for themselves, asking other people if they would be willing to sit down and visit. So this is one of those, when you try to grow someone and you're constantly the teacher, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's like feeding them. But what if instead you taught them how to fish? And with this case, I think you're teaching them how to fish.
So let's teach the audience how to fish here. So we use a term, which I think is a nice visual, that we say, if you want to micro-mentor, the micro being key here, right? You've got to learn to think small, right? And small as a nice analogy where we're not talking about some ongoing mentoring relationship, some formalized process. Think smaller. Think small. What does think small mean, and how do we? How can we help our audience do it?
It's an acronym. Yeah. It's an acronym, and the S stands for schedule. Simply schedule the meeting. Somehow get the meeting set up. Once you've scheduled, then you meet. SM. Got it? Gotcha. Meet. 45 minutes is what I always like asking for. An hour, they don't really like that. 30, but a lot of times, and they'll end up giving you an hour because they're going to enjoy the conversation anyway.
Sure.
When you get there, the A stands for ask, and that's your prep. You have your list of questions that you're going to use during that interaction. And then the L is listen. Listen. Yes. Really, every bit of, I don't care if you're back sore, you've got a problem at home. For that 45 minutes, take everything you can get out of that interaction. And the last then is go back, reflect, and learn. Yeah. So you schedule, you meet, you ask, you listen, and you learn.
Right. So the other direction I wanted to go earlier, you describe how managers can use this approach to teach employees to fish for themselves, to grow. Yes. I want to talk outside of that formal sort of manager-employer relationship, just to anybody that wants to invest in themselves, right? And if you will, I just promise you, if you will, once a month, once a week, find someone who knows something you don't, who's an expert in something you're not, who does something interesting you'd like to learn about. And if you use this technique, you reach out, you try to schedule a meeting, you meet, you ask interesting questions, you spend almost 80% of your time listening.
Yes.
This meeting is for you to learn.
Yes.
Don't run your mouth the whole time telling stories. And right. Listen, ask good questions and listen. Learn as much as you can. The amount of growth that someone can have for themselves, okay, is massive. It's just massive. And people I know in my network and in my life, I can tell the people who have stacked up 20 years of doing this,
yes.
And it's like, how do you know so many people? How do you know so much about so many diverse industries? It's because they do this all the time. They meet interesting people, they ask good questions, they listen, they learn. And this is one of those things, it sounds like a small idea when you think about it as a microcosm of one. Like, okay, yeah, that might be nice to do once. No, this is a life skill that if people will do this regularly, where they will be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now is light years different.
And Brett, what I have found is if they will do it 4 times, make yourself do it 4 times, you're going to find out this is easy to do, it's enjoyable, and you'll continue to. And again, you're more assertive people, maybe will be more comfortable doing it. You're talented people, they're a little bit more, we talk about they have a high power distance score, they're a little bit reticent to go up to people with high titles. Once they find out that this is actually enjoyable, and those people actually enjoy the interaction with them because remember, whoever talks the most in a meeting always thinks it's a great meeting.
That's right.
So you're coming and you're letting them tell you about how they view the world and how they became successful. This is almost always a win-win conversation.
Yeah, we'll wrap the episode here in a sec, but I do want to just go deeper on that just briefly or reinforce that. Often when you start using this technique, particularly if you're not a networker by nature, this feels like you're asking someone for a favor. It feels like you are really, asking someone to go out of their way for your self-interest. I am telling you, after someone does this 4 times, what they will find out is that other person, the higher status person, the experienced person, the person that you're asking for advice, will think better of you.
Absolutely.
Right? They won't think, well, that person asked for a bunch of my time and I think less of it, somehow now they owe me. They'll actually be more likely to do you a favor, to think of you, to respond to a request in the future because you took an interest in them, right?
Absolutely. And one of the great closing questions in those interactions is, Mr. Such and Such, is there anyone else you think I would really benefit from meeting?
Yeah.
And often they will open up another connection for you.
Sure.
So this is, we started by saying this mentoring stuff. People do kind of roll their eyes. Oh yeah, whatever. I continue to believe it is one of the most underutilized, whether it's formal within the company or this micro-mentor approach. I think it's one of the most underutilized techniques that can really launch fantastic growth, not just for you, but for the people you supervise, if you'll just encourage them to use it.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
All right.
Thanks for coming in, diving deep today on mentoring, both the formal way and the informal way. And I'll leave it up to you, the listener, to figure out which would be more valuable for you, your team, or your company. Thanks for being here. Let's make something even better today.
Thanks, Brett.
Before we wrap up, I want to share something exciting. For the first time ever, BetterCulture has launched a virtual leadership academy, a 12-month experience for leaders and managers who are serious about expanding their leadership skills, impact, and influence. Whether you're investing in yourself or a team of managers, this program was built for you. If you're serious about building something better, this is your next step. Learn more at betterculture.com/academy.